Welcome to the Underground.
Turn me up, bitch!
My Little Underground with Peter A.
It's My Little Underground. I'm Peter A. Make sure you're listening anywhere you get podcasts, and you can follow me on socials at MLUpod. You can also subscribe to the My Little Underground email newsletter, and the link to that to sign up is at peteraradio.com. Today on the show, we have the great, talented, and vibrant Alicia Walter talking about her debut solo album, I Am Alicia, and I got to talk to her about coming out of a band and stepping into her own in this phenomenal solo album. We also talked about Alicia's time on the Chicago DIY music scene and all the artists she's got to know, and even some shows that she's booked, and as well as her experiences on the New York City music scene as well. And she's also a DJ, so I talked about her experiences with that as well. The very vibrant and diverse sound that you can't pin down on I Am Alicia, and I think it's safe to say this is one of my favorite albums of 2021 so far. I can't stop listening to it, so I'm going to shut up, and you're going to hear me talk to the great and talented Alicia Walter right here on My Little Underground. What are you drinking? Is that tea? Water?
No, just water.
Oh, okay, good. You know, the vocal chops that you got, you got to stay refreshed and hydrated,
It's true. Yeah, and now I use a Brita.
What's that?
I don't know if you know the filter, like the Brita filters,
No.
You've seen
Don't I know?
like when people pour or they put their water into like a pitcher, but it's got the filter at the top.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I do that now. And so my water's always like, I do notice now that I'm kind of like a water snob. Like I don't want to drink tap water anymore. You know?
Yeah. I hear you. Same here. I get the essential water.
Ooh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that like pH balance. It's so good.
The smart water. That's all me. That's it.
Totally.
Yeah. You know what? Like you did something really cool that I saw you post about. You did a thing at Rough Trade. You signed some records.
Yeah, I didn't have like a signing event, but I did get to sign some records that are for sale in store, which was super fun for me. And I hadn't been to they relocated from Williamsburg to 30 Rock, which is so crazy.
Yeah.
So it was cool to go, and it was cool to see the new store. And also I just haven't even really been in record stores that much since COVID. So it was fun to go.
Yeah. Like, did they like invite you? Like, hey, just come by, sign some records, and that's it?
No, I invited myself. And I was like, hey, you're carrying my record. Thank you for selling my record. And then they were like, oh my God. And then they were like, you should sign some. But that was cool because I didn't know that we were going to do that. And then they like put the autographed sticker on the vinyl, which was cool. And I did the photo booth. They put my photo on the wall. That was nice too.
Wow. So you just pulled up and said, you're selling my stuff. Wow.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
You should do a little like record store tour and just like pull up to any record store that has your stuff.
Like, hey.
Wow. You know what I'm going to do for you? When I go to a record store and I find your records, I'm going to let you know what record store it is. So you
Amazing. There you go. This will be the tour.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a big record collector, generally speaking?
Honestly, no, I'm not. And I think about this often because I'm slightly ashamed to say that I don't own a record player. And I used to before I lived in New York when I was in Chicago, but it's so hard to have stuff in New York. Like, I just feel like even having a bookshelf, I have a ton of books, and I feel like it's hard to have that much media moving around with you from apartment to apartment. So I have not continued to grow my record collection. I have a very humble stack that I've moved around with me. But it is something that I aspire to have more of a listening setup. I mean, I have my good monitors, but I would really love a leisure listening setup, for my apartment, because I love listening to records and I love listening on good speakers. It's such a valuable experience. I really enjoy doing that. So it's something that I sort of aspire to continue to grow as I mature.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you play at all the old Williamsburg Rough Trade venue at all?
You know, I never got to. I saw some good shows there.
Same.
Yeah. And it's too bad that they don't have like an actual venue space at the new place. But they do have, I guess they're doing like outdoor stuff right now in COVID.
Yep. Pom Pom Squad just
I know
something.
that was like the first one, that they did. But I think that'll probably continue to develop. It sounds like they were trying to plan how to do some in-store performance stuff, but they don't have like the same like venue setup, you know.
No, it's very small in there. I went recently.
Oh, you've been in there? Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, you know, something about your record that, you know, I guess anyone who's listening to it will, you know, notice your vocal prowess is outstanding. Oh, so especially there's two songs that I really want to highlight because they're some of my favorites right now. That can change within a few months, you know, but Suit Yourself and Just a Little, especially Suit Yourself. Now, tell me about your vocal regimen for this song. Like, are you doing all of the vocal tracks, or do you have some backing vocalists? Tell me the whole story here.
Yeah, it's all me. Wow. So the whole album is all my voice. So there are a ton of vocals. I mean, there's a lot of background vocals in general, like throughout, you know, the whole album. And in Suit Yourself, my original conception of that song, it wasn't even as produced out, like fully fleshed out as the original. I had just like drum machine, and then it was really just going to be vocals. I had vocals, drum machine, and that synth. It's like a Prophet that like that hook. It was just going to be that. I wanted to keep it like super minimum. And then eventually Devin and I kind of built it out a little bit more, like, and added like those marimba like sounds and electric guitar stuff. But with the backup vocals, I just really stacked those harmonies. You know, I just like fully fleshed that out. With Just a Little, that was a super fun one because the whole thing was going to be a cappella, you know? And so I studied music in school, like in college. And part of one of my theory classes was singing barbershop quartets, like as just a theory practice to learn how that worked, more so less about the singing, just more about the actual music theory part. But I always loved doing it, even when I didn't have like great singers that I was paired with. I just like loved doing those sort of arrangements, and I was like, oh, it would be so fun to write out a whole vocal part that was just stacked like barbershop quartet harmonies. And I think I wrote that all like in a week. I wrote like a verse a day or something, but it was really insane tracking that because the tempo speeds up gradually throughout the whole thing. So I had a click that was like on a, you know, whatever's metered out so that it sped up. But I was recording those vocal tracks just to myself. So when you're like stacking those harmonies and the timing, it's not like you're not like looking at somebody to be like, you know, like landing the note. It's just all doing it with yourself on a recording. And I actually, those background vocals too, I tracked those alone too. So it was all just like me in a room kind of losing my mind. Also really fun with that song was that I visited the Poughkeepsie, what are they called? Like the New Yorker Chorus is literally a men's barbershop choir. And I like went to a rehearsal of theirs. It's all like 70-year-old men who sing these barbershop quartets. And I went like right when I was like trying to write the song, I wanted to have like some real life inspo. And I went to a rehearsal. I like got to sing with them. Literally, one of the guys like gave me these handbooks on like how to write like barbershop quartet lingo and like how to write barbershop harmonies and stuff. So that was like a very experiential song, you know.
What is your vocal warm-up regimen, if you have one?
Yeah, I don't have a very like nothing super specific. I do the like mommy 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 mo, you know, like the up and down the scale sort of thing.
Yep.
And then I really love doing sirens, like just like
Yeah,
that sort of stuff,
yep.
like and I've done that for a long time because I can remember doing that like in venues before like my band would play. I would be like behind the stage doing that. You would like hear it out in front.
I did choir in high school, and so I
There
know,
you go, exactly.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't have anything like crazy, just normal warm-up stuff. And I drink a lot of water.
Key.
Yeah.
That is key. You probably
Yeah.
like avoid certain things, right? Maybe
Yeah.
soda, maybe milk, or
Yeah, I try it like if I'm singing, if I'm gonna record or something, like I'm not drinking coffee, I do like having like throat coat tea and honey,
yeah,
does make it
fantastic.
really, yeah. And there's a good, I forget the name of it. I haven't used it in a while. There's a good throat spray that like Whole Foods sells. That's a vocal spray. I mean, that stuff is more like, I feel like it's just for fun. Like it feels good to use because it's kind of like fun to eat honey while you're singing.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my little tricks.
So this is your debut solo album, I Am Alicia. So how does it feel like to be, because you were in a band before, to be on your own artistically?
That's a good question. I think you can hear a lot of that in the album.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I think like this album has been in the works for a while. I started working on this album in March of 2018. Wow. So it's been cooking for a hot minute, and so in that time, I've definitely evaluated what I was doing and the music all these different lights, and in one sense this album is a very like insular journey that is about like this trip inward and really like sorting through my own identity and consciousness and spirituality and like all of these like metaphysical ideas, and then on the other hand I think there's a very literal like me exploring my musical influences and my sort of like, I've always like, you can see me exploring the freedom of being a solo artist too, because I'm like, I'm going to write every kind of song I can try, and it was like every song was a new challenge to me. Like writing a song like Who Am I, where it's like a jazz trio. I had never written a song like that. And, I in the same way that I'd never written a song that was like Standing at Your Doorstep, which is like a very catchy Motown-y song, like all of them felt like, these are like different influences and parts of me that I want to see if I can express. What is it like for me to go into this part of myself and like put on that hat? What's that going to sound like? Like, what is it like for Alicia Walter to write a barbershop quartet? So I think it feels very liberating. It's like and I also sing about that I think in the last song too, but it's definitely every itch has been scratched, at least like in the process of making those songs that I wanted to make. Every itch was being scratched.
It's really a road trip, honestly. And you're going through different, as you change area codes, the weather patterns are changing rapidly.
Love it.
That's literally it. You get you go through a rainstorm, you go through a snowstorm, and then it's really sunny. I don't know what kind of planet this is, but it's it changes a lot. It's very like a chameleon, that's how I look at it. But it's not like inconsistent at all. But it changes in the best way possible, I think.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think I take that as a compliment. And I think that's really what I was doing, like that is the story. I think that's why, to me, the fact that I was writing and recording those songs in the box in real time. Like I started with Prelude, the first thing I was recording was like those yep, 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 yep. Like everything happened in order. So it's kind of this, to me, it really is like a document of a journey. It is the story of this trip, like how I got to I Am. Like there's no other album I've made that's been like that. You know, usually you're like, what's the track list going to be? Like, how do we put all these songs together? And you're like playing around with how the album fits together as a body. This was like a literal journey that I was taking. And it felt like, you know, there's only like Prelude can only lead to House of Yes. House of Yes only leads to Who Am I? Like, these are all these steps along the way, you know? And it just is, it's a very singular work in that way, you know?
Yeah, you've cultivated a body of work, you know? That may sound like elementary, but you are really making something for someone like me, like who loves to listen to albums and kind of like get, you know, taking on a journey. And, you know, when you're talking about being free and showcasing your influences, you know, and also talking about, you know, your intimate record collection, it's like, okay, maybe on this song, she listens to a little bit of Animal Collective. Maybe in this song, she likes a little bit of, you know, a little Prince, maybe a little Nina Simone, but you're going all over the place. Maybe a little Ava Luna in there, but, you know, I love it. It's a fun, wild ride.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Yeah. I think in exploring, there's just sort of like this uninhibited exploration. That's what it feels like to me.
Great word. That's it.
There's not like a and it was not like planned. You know, I didn't plan that out. Like, it wasn't like, this is where I'm going. I didn't know where I was going, you know, and I don't think it would be possible for me to ever I can't make that record again. You know, like, there's no way for that to exist in the same way. It's just like a very specific exploration, you know.
I don't expect you to. Nope. In round two, you know, it's going to be something different. You know, I could already tell. You know, it's like we're getting a window into who you are individually, and it's probably not going to be the same, you know, next time, which is fine, which is great.
Absolutely.
You spent some time in Chicago. You know, what did you see as far as like the music scene is concerned? Like, what artists have you interacted with and become fans of too?
In Chicago?
Yeah.
Well, I'm from Chicago, so that was really my my like whole beginning of figuring out music and being in a band was in Chicago. I started throwing shows. I lived in a co-op that had a co-op in quotes. It was really like a house full of, you know, 20-year-olds. But we had like 17 people in a house, and I started throwing shows in our basement. And it was just amazing. I mean, it was like this very eye-opening experience of like the immediacy of performing in front of people who are 2 feet in front of you, you know, and the community that surrounded that was Chicago has a very tight music community. Even, I mean, I've found community in the music scenes here in New York, but Chicago, just by nature, has a much more like a small town mentality compared to New York. So everybody knows everybody, you know, and you really start playing, your band plays with these bands, and then like those bands overlap with this other circle. And then, you know, there's sort of this like wreath, you know, a network that connects everybody. And even within, you know, I was really living in the city of Chicago for about 7 years. And I would say about 5 of those years, or 5 or 6, I was like playing shows and had my band Oshwa. And felt like it was definitely it was just easier to become a part of the regular cloth of the musicians in Chicago, if that makes sense. You know, like that you could just start playing shows really easily and gigging around in a way that was like very community building, you know. So you got to know a lot of people very quickly.
Right. What bands specifically like you became just fans of, just as like a music lover?
Well, I mean, what's crazy is that, like, for one, Namdi, who is on Super, my label.
Yep.
Namdi grew up in a south suburb of Chicago, and I was going to his shows at his house when I was 15, you know, and he played drums in the band that my bassist was in high school. So there was like all of this like comeuppance sort of with like growing up around musicians that are still musicians in Chicago. You know, like Namdi for one, Ohm is another one.
Yeah, almost cool.
Ohm's awesome. I love them. And like we were playing shows. I remember when Ohm was playing like their very first shows in like small DIY spaces, you know, and we would be playing with them. Like Vivi Lightbody, who was in this great band called Grandkids at the time. She's now a solo musician. Rat Boys.
Love Rat Boys. I just saw them at the music hall.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, and all those people, like Julia grew up in the same suburb as me, you know, so there was really this like very strong DIY culture. And actually, I think it's pretty cool because like a lot of the musicians that we were playing, like the ones that I'm talking about, we were all playing with each other at that time, like from our early 20s, and a lot of those people are still musicians, still like, and continuing to grow and release music and perform. You know, I think that's really kind of special that there are still those artists in Chicago, like still doing it, you know.
You know Ganser?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They're awesome. Love them. They've been on the show too. Same with Julia from Rat Boys.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I love all those Chicago artists. They're all fantastic.
Oh my God, yeah. So many good musicians. Chicago's just full of talent. Like there really are just insane players in Chicago, and just like you can always see good music. I think, and there's really like you can live in Chicago and be a musician, and it's just not quite as hard to do that in New York, you know? Like it's just more of a hustle in New York. So I think musicians have a lot of time. They play together a lot, like you practice a lot, you know? So there's a lot of talent for sure.
You know, I think, because, you know, I'm a big fan of Common, you know, Chicago legend, right?
Yeah.
I feel like he's such a big music lover. If he ever hears your voice, you're going to be on one of his albums. It's going to happen.
Oh, that's amazing.
I swear to God. Yeah, I don't mean to blow smoke. I'm just saying, I know real recognize real. You know what I mean? I'm honestly saying that. It's going to be, I would love to hear you and Common work together, because he's
That'd be
soulful.
crazy.
You're very soulful, so it all makes sense.
Wow, yeah, that's totally true.
So New York, you've been in New York for about 5-6 years now, right?
Yeah, 5 years. It'll be 5 in the fall.
Oh, cool. So happy New York birthday to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm like half a New Yorker, you know, half the way to the decade.
Right. Tell me about your experiences with the music scene here. You know, what artists are you fans of here, or you've worked with, generally speaking?
Yeah, for sure. One of the bands actually that you mentioned, Ava Luna.
Yeah.
Ava Luna used to play with Oshwa when they would come through Chicago.
Wow.
So when I moved out here, I was definitely super stoked when I became friends with Becca Kaufman, who used to be in Ava Luna and is now Jennifer Vanilla.
Yeah.
So that's been like a really just fun, like, because before I remember being in Chicago and being like, oh my God, Ava Luna is like I just loved that band so much, and I still do. Like, incredible musicians, all of them.
Yeah.
And even now, like Carlos and Julian from Ava Luna work out of the same studio that I mixed and recorded my album in, the Honey Jar in Brooklyn. I'm a big fan of sort of the most recent iteration of all of the women in Dirty Projectors, like all of their bands, you know. Felicia, I've toured with.
Love Felicia.
Yeah, I love Felicia too. And when I was doing some Oshwa solo tours, like after I moved to New York, and I got to tour with Gemma a little bit.
Love Gemma.
Me too. I love Kristen Slip, has the voice of an angel, and Meadows I think is an amazing project. Same with Maya Friedman. They've been putting out, she has Coco is like their new project. Also really awesome music. I'm just a big fan of like that, all of those people's projects. Yeah, I would say like my experience moving out here was definitely made easier by the fact that I did know a lot of New York musicians from playing with them in Chicago, you know, even like bands like Porches, and like there were a ton of people that are in New York still being musicians that we were playing with at the time when they would come through Chicago.
Yeah. You brought up Jennifer Vanilla, and she did a song a few years back. it was like a phone call, you know, and it reminds me of your song off your record.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah.
There are really a lot of similarities between, like, I actually just saw Becca perform. She opened for Chick 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 like last week.
Wow.
And she, like, there's like a whole part of her performance that is like, I am Jennifer Vanilla. And I was like, oh my God, I'm literally like, we just have like very similar interests, I think, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Kindred
Becca's
spirits.
amazing. Yes. And watching Becca perform is always a magical experience, a very singular person.
There's a lot going on I Am Alicia instrumentally.
Mm-hmm.
So what, if you're thinking about this, like, what does the live Alicia Walter setup look like from a solo musician standpoint?
That's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the ideal setup is like a 50-person band. I think, like, you know, I don't know how exactly the live show, how that's going to happen yet. I think there's a lot of different ways it can come to fruition. You know, there is even like from I've done a lot of solo setups that involve samplers and drum machines and keyboards. You know, I think there's like, you can simplify it down to that. And I think there's also like a 4 or 5 person band version. You know, I'm holding out for the like 20-person choir and, you know, the Stop Making Sense tour version.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't know, because that is the funny thing, to use a word, about making an album in the box. Like, this is the only time I've ever done that. I've always done it the other way, where there's been the live version first and then the song. This was like, I had no limitations because I was just recording. I was just going in and making the actual recordings. So yeah, now it's like this reverse puzzle, you know, like, oh, what do you do when you have, because so many of these songs too are like sounds that are like the vocals that are like yep, there's a lot of sounds that make the song, you know, so it's kind of its own challenge figuring out the live version.
I can't wait to see what you come up with, because I don't think there's a right answer to it.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, there's a lot, you know, there's a lot of freedom in that, in the same way that there is in the album.
Yeah. And this album is very, we've, you know, discussed this briefly, but it's very colorful. You know, there's a lot going on. It's essentially like a party album, but not like what you would expect. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
was that your intention? Or, you know, I know you DJ'd a little bit, but like, are you thinking of that? Are you thinking, okay, party, when people come see me, they're going to dance?
That's really interesting. You know, I don't think I was consciously thinking that. I think I was really just following my every whim. Like, I was just like, what makes me curious, you know, and what kind of music do I definitely like. I listened to the album and the energy is just like palpable. You know, there's like so much energy. And I think that was just like an inevitable, it was how I felt making it. So it was just going to come out that way, you know. I do think that I had sort of coming out of Oshwa, which was a little bit more free form, like a little bit more artsier arrangement, I guess. Like, not really, but I think there was just inherently kind of coming from this, like, I honestly refute this term all the time, like the math rock world, like the sort of Oshwa music got lumped into a little bit. I never identified with that term, but I do think it described kind of the complexity of some of those arrangements. And I think coming into making this album, I did want there to be sort of like a centered like rhythm section that was like very stable, in order to go around that. Like, I wanted, like, all the songs for the most part are, you know, just pretty steady tempo or dance music, like you're saying. Like, it's like, this is like 4 on the floor, you know, like I understand how to move my body to this. And I think I did want that just from like a pop sensibility standpoint, you know.
Yeah.
And actually, I do think there's some like subconsciously, I do work as a wedding DJ. And I think the nature of like playing, you get used to like reading the room so much and changing the vibe. There's sort of like, I think I had this idea like very subconsciously going into making the album that was like, I'm gonna keep the vibe going, you know, like I never wanted to feel like you knew what to expect. I never wanted anyone to know what to expect.
Yep, and that's exactly what I got. And you know, I pictured block party. You know, that's all block, not like a club. You know, like but that'll work too. But like it's just outside, just people doing their own thing. But again, I don't want to put you in a box though, because I think that was the point of your album too. Like just whatever, whenever, however. And when it comes to your DJ life, because I used to be a top 40 radio personality, right? So I worked with a lot of DJs, and I love DJ culture because I'm a fan of hip hop. So what is your ideal DJ set like? Weddings? Did you do clubs too? Like, tell me the whole
I've
thing.
done very minimal club DJing in New York. I did start like I was doing like Jupiter Disco. What am I thinking of in Bushwick? It's either
I don't
combination of those words. There's like a club that I was starting to DJ out there, but I kind of thought for a while that would be like my tangential, like I'd be doing my music and DJing like clubs. Then I realized that was insane. Like that trying to do both of those things is like you're doing one of those things, you know. Like there's so many DJs, and it's also like a thankless job. Like in terms of DJing clubs, I think that's just a big hustle in the same way that being an artist is. Like you're always working on it, you know. I think I did get really into house music in New York, which I was not into in Chicago, surprisingly, actually. I think it was just like I hadn't really gotten into it at the time. Did go through a big house phase here pre-COVID, which was really fun. And have just had a lot of fun in New York going out dancing in general. Like obviously House of Yes inspired the track House of Yes. And I think like I don't necessarily I'm definitely not like a raver or, you know, like
of course not. Yeah.
An all-nighter, like all the time kind of person. And I think my energy is like, I'm still pretty like high vibe. Like I like like super dark techno is not my world. But I do think there's a very like the experience of dancing in a room full of strangers that are all like there to dance, not to impress other people or not to be seen in a way that is like, I mean, to see and be seen is a very validating experience, but the experience of going out dancing, I think is like super liberating. So anywhere that there's that sort of feeling, like I think that happens a lot with house music. I think that sort of like, holy feeling.
Do you use Serato or do you use records?
I use Serato.
Okay. All right. Cool.
It would be fun to be a vinyl spinning DJ for weddings. That would be insane.
Yeah, because you got to carry everything. Yeah, it's not ideal. It's not practical. But for me, when I go see DJs in the flesh, I like to see how they put songs together. You know, and then I'll like poke them. Like I like when you did that. With that and
for
that.
Sure.
You know, so I'd love to see you in the flesh.
Aww.
You know, DJing. Yeah, because I love the craft. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
I know it is a really cool craft, and I think like when you're watching a really good DJ, that is so special. You know, that transition, like the whole thing, like the creation of the experience, I think is a very artful craft for sure.
Do you listen to Ella Minus?
You know, I have listened to her music a bit, but I'm not like I just don't know her music enough. But I've had multiple people bring up Ella Minus to me, so I feel like I need to do more listening. Are you an Ella Minus fan? Yeah,
she put out an album last year. It's remarkable. It's so good. It's very.
She DJs, right? Like she like.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I see pictures of her on Instagram with a bunch of mixers and stuff like that. And there's also DOS. Do you know about DOS?
I do.
Yeah. She does a lot of DJ stuff around here too.
That's
which
cool,
is cool
too. Yeah. I think for a while I was kind of entertaining the idea of DJing as performance too, like singing and DJing, and just haven't then I think that was like all leading up to COVID, and then COVID happened. And
yeah. Are you thinking about doing another DJ set?
I mean, I've got a bunch of weddings on the books. I don't know. I'll see. Like, I'm definitely open to that, and I think it's like something that what's nice about DJing is that like once you are doing it, I think you can bring that out when you want to be doing it, So I don't know. I definitely would be open to that, like as things are kind of opening back up. I still feel like I'm like getting used to the world again.
Yeah, I get you.
Still a new world out there.
Yeah, because you got to ping me when you do a DJ set, because I'm curious to see your music selection.
Cool, yeah.
I'm not going to be judging you. I'm just going to be curious. I want to see how you put songs together. Yeah.
100%.
Cool. This is a very probably existential question, but how does it feel for you to be, at least the differences and similarities with being on your own, being a solo artist, and then probably, I don't know for sure, working with probably a live band versus being in a band. Does it make sense?
Yes, of course. Yeah. That's a good question too. I think being in a band is a very special relationship that is very much like being in any intimate relationship. I like when I was in, especially like the nature of Oshwa was just like a very like, they were my best friends. We were all only in that band, like we did not play in other bands. It was just that band. And after we stopped being a band, like two of those people don't play music anymore.
Wow.
It was a very like, this exists solely for this purpose. And I think, when you're 20, in your early 20s, and then approaching your mid 20s, a lot shifts. Like that's such a crazy time in terms of like your personal development. And it's no wonder that like for people, and I think that's the nature of being in a band at any point, but what happened with our interpersonal projects where it was just like, we were all seeking ourselves, we were all seeking our own direction. And it's difficult when you don't know what that is personally, like, and I think that's what other people in the band were feeling, that there was just like, we don't know if this is like the thing that is like our highest priority. We've got to go figure out ourselves, I think everyone went on to do, like, has gone on to do that. Like I went on to make this record. Michael Mack is in Chicago and he's still an amazing engineer and producer. But Jordan and Matt have gone different ways. So there's just sort of like, I think the idea of putting together a live band now is much more functional in terms of like, there's just like this is what we are here to do. Like, when you're in a band, it's like an emotional relationship that you share with however many people are in the project with you. I think not that there isn't that element of sharing in the creation of what you're doing, in a sense of like, let's put together a live band for this album, but it's a little bit more like we understand what this is about in a way that isn't quite as soul searching as being in a band is, because it's like four people collectively searching for their individual and collective identities all at the same time, so it's like a lot going on, I think, in a band. And yeah, but I also, I mean, I loved being in a band. I loved being a band leader. Like I like working with people creatively. Like I like collaborating with the one kind of unified vision in mind, so yeah, I don't know. It's all an interesting process, life, like it's always taking me someplace new.
That's it, because when I asked you about the live band thing, I don't know what you're gonna do. I don't know what your live setup is gonna be, which is part of the fun,
Yeah.
And now you're taking on this whole thing almost by yourself, and you don't even know what you're gonna do next. And I'm glad, and I'm so excited because this album is a good first step to whatever it is you're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you planning a tour of sorts or anything?
Nothing's on the books right now, but
Okay.
very TBD.
I was expecting you to say that just by listening to the album and everything. I'm like, okay, it's not done yet, which is fine. I'm ready to be surprised, which is cool.
Yeah, I think for sure there, I'm sort of seeing what the universe what doors open and what makes sense. There's still, I think, a lot of logistics just with COVID still like figuring out, so yeah, TBD, but it is a really wonderful, I really appreciate just the fact that like to work on something for that long, it was like 3.5 years in the works. So to get to the point of releasing that into the world it's such a powerful energy release, that there's really just like, I think a lot of like creative energy has just been released personally from me into the universe, so I feel like there's sort of this period right now of just like, okay, like letting things settle and letting it land in people's ears, and feeling like, I just trust. It's nice to feel very, the older I get, the more I recognize when to push and when to try to control, like when you really need to like assert your masculine side, and when to really appreciate the receptive side and to tune into like, I'm just gonna see what comes. And I understand to, I appreciate knowing that. I think when I was younger, I didn't know. And I felt like I just always had to go do, So it's kind of nice to like let something out into the world and see what happens, and make your decisions from there.
You have to suit yourself.
Exactly.
You have to.
Exactly. Yep.
It's exactly what you're doing. And it's a selfish endeavor, it's only you. Like I know from doing this podcast, it is a selfish endeavor. It's me. Where do I want to go? And I think that is a wonderful thing. I love that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's not selfish in a way that isn't, it's the right kind of selfish. And that it's like,
that's what I mean.
Yeah. Serving yourself and serving the good of the universe, Yep.
Only you know what kind of suit you want to wear.
Hey, there you go. That's the remix.
Yeah. I love it. Man, Alicia, this has been so much fun. And I knew it was going to be fun too, just by listening to the record. You know what I mean? I know you're going to be very lively and a pleasure to talk to. So tell everybody where they can listen to the album and follow you on the socials and hopefully eventually see you live.
Yeah, for sure. You can stream the album anywhere you stream, available for sale on amazing translucent red vinyl.
Hello.
My Bandcamp, just search for Alicia Walter. You'll find it.
Yep.
And I think that's it. You can find me on socials. Everything's under my name, so it's easy.
Yeah, you're very searchable. It's very easy to find.
Good. I'm
glad. Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
Lovely being here.